Hello there. So, as you might have seen by the title, I managed it. I got the world record in NTA. And, you know, here in the video, I will give some context as well as commentary. But if you don't care about any of that and just want to see the run, I linked the raw footage of the run as well as the PS5 recording, the local one, to have even better quality. So yeah, if you don't want to watch the commentary, feel free to watch there. But this one definitely deserves commentary and a bit of context. As of recently, I've been a little bit less active. There were runs here and there, but I was kind of out of the spotlight for the most part. And due to health-related issues as well as just, difficulties with time, job, I'm doing currently some extra qualifications with an exam coming up. But yeah, about the context of the run, since obviously it was an offline run, due to the health-related issues I've been having for the last 2 weeks, I've had the whole this week of sick leave, and during that time I still wanted to try and be productive as much as was possible, considering the health, which was mostly studying for the exam that is coming up for me, but also, well, basically I saw a video by Summoning Salt, the Ninja Gaiden 2 video, the world record progression, which was very a nice watch, and I can only recommend it. And without spoiling too much, during that video there was a section where the main guy was basically grinding for a world record daily for over a year until he got it. And one of my biggest goals in this game, I'm a competitive person and I wanted to be the second person who got all the full game main category world records, so to speak, which are the any percents and the boss rushes. The any percents I've gotten a while ago, as well as the HTA boss rush, but NTA is different. NTA has always been different because of, first of all, how optimized and difficult it is to actually run, and second of all, my motivation to run it. It's my least favorite categories of all of them, and at the same time it's the most prestigious one because that's where the best of the best set the most optimized times that Shadow of the Colossus can have, pretty much, for full game runs. So during the sick leave of this week, I set myself a goal of trying to run the game every day as much as I could, which was usually only 1 or 2 hours, but this kind of mindset actually helped a lot because I wanted to do it as a more long-term thing. I wanted to finish more runs and overall improve at the game, and oh boy, improve I did. I will cover the more gameplay related stuff at the actual commentary part, but this was out of nowhere for me, and I'm very grateful for all the people that helped me get this far. And last time I held the NTA boss rush world record was before Sean first took it, which was quite a while ago, and then he improved it to an unbelievable amount, and then Odawara obviously improved it to such a point where it felt very daunting to attempt. But his run had mistakes. Obviously my run also has mistakes. There's still some more room left, obviously, but it gets harder the more strategies you incorporate, obviously, and my goal was also to not skip strategies as much as I used to. Besides the Avion Jumpstab, that one is still not required until, well, I guess now, the next time I would attempt a run like that, I would try and incorporate it. But yeah, I'm just very proud of what I achieved, and hopefully this commentary will do the run justice and give a bit more context for newer people, explain the run a bit, and also go into the emotions during the run as well as the stress combined with all the circumstances. So yeah, I guess let's get right into it. Let me see. There we are. I'll remove myself from the spotlight so you all can focus more of the run. And yeah, starting out with Valus, obviously the strategy here is to make Valus lower, and during the cutscene you want to run forward in a blind kind of manner to manage to get the skip up to the head directly. But that's not all of it, it's not even the most of it. The important part here is to get up the head as fast as possible, and I usually did this through the side here. The most important part is to avoid the plant here, because that allows you to get a second stab immediately. Sometimes you get a sheer upon stab, like an instant jump stab after that one. I didn't, but I managed to definitely improve my consistency, so I usually finished the Colossus with a 25 to 23 second time, depending on if I get the advanced strategy or not. Which definitely every second counts at that level. Like, it will be quite silly, that saying, but at the same time it's more true than ever, because yeah, you will see from the run what I mean. But every second was important here. To save, and whenever I could save time, I would try my best to do so. Quadratus, the next one, with the ump jump. So the strategy here is double rolling, getting an early arrow, and then barely grabbing onto the back side of Quad to get up there very quickly, and also avoid his usual animation so you can actually jump forward very quickly. This is a strategy that used to be very hard, but now it was incorporated more and more into runs, and now it's pretty much a standard for top runs. And the biggest part here is also getting the Shirapon stab, which is the instant jump stab you get off of the animation here, because that saves another 2 to 4 seconds pretty much. It's not quite required, because usually if you're quick enough you can save that one. But, you know, as I said, every second counts here, and that's Quad down. So, and I will start talking about the next Colossus immediately, because that one is painful. So, I didn't update this in quite a while, but until recently, you can't quite see it. Let me see if I can show you here. These are the runs I failed on Gaius, and the runs I got past Gaius. I didn't track it during the week, but you see it's painful. Pretty much a fourth of the time I managed to get past Gaius with the new strategy. But the strategy saves 20 seconds, so you have to go for it, otherwise you're not competitive in this category. You could probably still record without the strategy, but everything else would have to be picture perfect. Without the strategy I wouldn't have gotten the record, and this is one of the big improvements compared to the old strategy. The old strategy you would just launch up to the very top. Many people will know the Gaius launch. It's a lot more consistent than what this is. Here you're using an animation of Gaius to get up here early, which saves the time that he would usually take to swing the sword. And then you jump here, kind of glitch up there. You have to do those 3 very, very precise and quick cycle stabs. And the window here is if you do a mistake, you're not quick enough. And then jump up here directly right before the hand finishes the animation. Since there's pretty much no downtime at all, and you get up the Colossus a lot quicker, even though maybe for a casual player this looks less impressive than the full launch, but this is a lot quicker and also a lot harder than the launch. Here, big shout out to Pdo and Jaikhay, who helped me a lot with consistency on this one. When I was doing the runs during this week, my consistency shot up by quite a bit. It was maybe 50% instead of 25%, and that makes a difference, a big one. Because not only are you more motivated when runs go past Gaius, you also get more opportunities to do good runs. And due to that, I was able to finish a lot more runs and get consistent with the other strats, which will follow. Because the only strategy that could be incorporated that I'm skipping, as I already mentioned before, was the Avion Jumpstab. The reason is I didn't practice that one quite as much, and I knew I could get the record without it. Going forward, I will incorporate it during boss rush if I will try this category again. Odawara could beat this the next day, and I would look a bit silly maybe. He definitely has the skill to do it, but I'm very proud of this run. So, the Phaedra launch. Here you use an animation of the leg to get right up here. And here a little difference is if you get a shake or not. Here I did it shakeless, so this is pretty much already 2 seconds faster. But now one of the first shockers of the run there leaves a little bit of time, and that looked quite scary. So, in my previous experiences, if you get the shakeless setup here, the jump stab is usually very, very safe to go through. So I do, but here Phaedra's movement was a lot more than usual, so I didn't get the jump stab immediately. Thank God I saved it here with another quick jump stab on top, but instead of a 40-second Phaedra, I got a 44. So this is one of the first small time losses that I get of around 4 seconds. Which, I mean, when you're optimizing for a sub 14 time, this matters. This matters a lot actually, because, you know, if it happens on one Colossus, it's not a big deal. Especially if you're doing very well on the rest, but in the usual kind of run, you will get average times. And you know, if you just get an average run without resets, that one will be slower than this one. And yeah, I spoiled it again, there will be resets. But those kind of extra quick strats allow you to have more freedom with the safety in the rest of the run. Like, for example, with the Avion. So, with the Avion, as I already mentioned, now for the third time, I didn't go for the jump step. I didn't have much luck with the strat in the past. It's not even about the jump stab itself on the wing, it's about the transition. And shall I try a run in this again, I will definitely go for it, because that's pretty much the last thing needed for this run to go. You know, I got a 355-ish run. 1355, I'm sorry. Without mistakes, this run could have been a 1330. If you add the Avion, it can be maybe a 1310, and then if you do everything absolutely perfect, sub 13 would be the limit. But yeah, here I will just go for a regular wing drop, which means I get up here and then try to transition from one wing to the other. And thank God I got the wing up here. I've been practicing the wing down, the up animation happens, but it's definitely more of a difficulty for me, because the animation here is just perfect to drop down. With the other one you can also swing yourself to the other side of the wing, but it's more difficult to control, I guess, because I have less practice with it as well, I assume. But here it was wing up, everything went pretty much perfectly, besides a few little hiccups, which I won't even go into more detail. So it's good, you know, a second here and there helps, but you know, that would be going too far into detail. And that was a good Avion. And this is the moment pretty much, besides another few hiccups later, where the run became very stressful. Because I went for every opportunity I got to save time, and this was one of the few runs where most of the time saves I went for actually paid off. Which is very rare. Like, in Boss Rush and Shadow of the Colossus in general, it's very, very difficult to be consistent, because every little hiccup will cost you anywhere between 5 seconds and sometimes 15 to 20 seconds, which will ruin a run very, very quickly. And here on Barba, I went all out. So the first part about Barba is you want to swing up the hand, and ideally the way to do it is to launch up on the first animation, which you can easily achieve on 60 FPS if you jump here early and get this little tumble animation, because then you can do this whole thing earlier, because usually you would need like 2 animations to get up here, but doing it in 1 animation, as well as these cycle steps, which I saved here, because I think the last step would have gone past the sigil, which would have ruined the run pretty much. And now the second part is the jump step onto the back sigil. This one works if you're pretty precise on the initial setup. You want to be in the middle and you know, the sigil hitbox is way bigger than it should be. And if you hit it from the top and then jump step into it, you will be able to jump step it just about. It's fairly consistent, but can go wrong as easily as it sounds and looks. But this was a big one. This was a huge one, because this is where the nerfs started, because getting that one is quite rare and saves a lot of time, as you can see. This is actually flat time save. I'm already 26 seconds ahead of my personal best, and I need about 50 seconds to a minute to get the world record. So, Hydras, the strategy here is to bait a certain animation in the water, and it's a very precise skip. Though, you know, at the top level you shouldn't ever miss this skip, because there's a fairly good lineup for it. The more important part is how quickly and clean you get the jump stabs. And unfortunately in this run I actually lose like around 5, 6, 7 seconds, because one of the jump stabs goes a little wrong. But, you know, you expect a mistake here and there. This is pretty much the second quote-unquote major mistake, because I hit the horn here, and then the whole, you know, the whole trigger moves back quite far, so you kind of have to go around to jump stab the sigil. I still managed to do it, but that definitely cost quite a bit of time, because I didn't get jump step on one of the animations. But in the grand scheme of things, considering the pretty much godlike start on the first few, well, you know, you can be faster on the first few still, but I think past Barba, this is my best pace ever to this point, by quite a bit. And, you know, the 46 will make it more of an average kind of start, but by no means is this a bad start. This is still a very, very, very good start to the game. The 2 time losses I had were barely noticeable, and, you know, if this was Mario 64 where every second counts on 16 star or something, you know, if more people played it, maybe that would be more of a thing, but considering how hard it is to optimize, we're still very much, well, quite literally in the green. So, and as I mentioned, this is where I started to feel nerves as well, so some of my gameplay seems a bit wonky, and it will only get worse and worse, especially considering I'm sick, especially considering how much this category has done painful things to me in the past, with how many runs died. You see, I'm almost at 4,000 resets, and this is my most played category, even though I don't like it at all. But you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. Here with Kuromori, you just shoot him down and do a 1 cycle. Even that can go wrong. Sometimes I had runs where sometimes the hitbox of the sigil glitches and you get meme stabs where the stab doesn't hit even though you're quite on it. And that can ruin runs as well, but here, thankfully, everything went fine after the positions. And usually it's fine, even if you get one of the meme stabs, you can usually reposition and just get the 1 cycle anyway. But, you know, as long as you're aware of what can go wrong, this one usually doesn't go too bad. You know, most of the time variance here is the RNG on how quick the Kuro climbs the wall. And as you see, my time keeps going up because my last run was a pretty average run for the most part, with a few hiccups here and there that were more majorly noticeable. So you see, I'm still doing no resets, very good executions, but 5 seconds here, 5 seconds there, and it's definitely noticeable. And Basaran is another one. Here you use the launch mechanic, that's one of the difficulties, once more. But the other thing is also lining up the jump stab, because if you get the instant jump stab onto the sigil, which is quite precise but fairly doable consistently, I think would have already did in this run as well, you are able to line it up in a way where if you here then get a plant, which sometimes works immediately, other times like here, I repositioned just to be safe on the grip here. You can get as low as 32 seconds with this strategy, which is another big time save. Like, your usual run will be around 40 seconds. If you do one mistake or don't get the plant, it can go up to 50 or 60 seconds even. So getting a 35 here, even though not perfect, this is very, very good. Because I usually don't get it. I'm still not at the point where I can do this consistently. I know there are other players like Udavara, Sean, even Jaikhay who can get this quite consistently. But, you know, getting it in the run when it matters is huge. And as you see, I'm at 41 seconds of time save. By the way, if I finished from here on out without any mistakes, I think I would have gotten into the 1330 range. Which, well, maybe 1340 range, but it would have been quite amazing. So, now comes the part that I usually call the skill test. Pretty much. On the next few Colossi, you can't really save any time, but you can lose quite a bit of time. So the expected result is pretty much perfection, but a mistake here and there can cost the run pretty easily. And 40 seconds past Basaran, definitely my best pace ever, and I'm nervous as hell. As you see, I took a way more safer route on dirt as I usually would. Not quite into a wall, but more of an angle, so I get more attempts at the arrow if I fail it, but I nailed that one. So this probably costs like 2 to 4 seconds, but it's not majorly a big deal. The one side which requires quite precise stabbing, which can be quite difficult under pressure, but I thankfully got it. You know, it's fairly easy to get once you're very, very used to the strategy. And this is another thing that helped a lot by, you know, I know I mentioned Sean a lot, even though he retired, like, a lot of the things that improved my gameplay came from his approach to the game, which is doing a lot more no reset runs, practicing the strats until you can do them pretty much while asleep. And this was very, very huge and crucial in the run, as I will go into further later on. And you see, the 5 second here, 5 second there. It keeps coming, it keeps going, and now I think I'm pretty much at the point where, you know, even if I don't do anything crazy, this should record. But, well, it will get quite a bit crazy. So, for Celosia, I finally accepted it and started doing the IL strat. The reason here is I've gotten a lot more consistent with it, and I was just like, you know what, it's 2 seconds. It's a bit risky, but, you know, the good thing about those 2 seconds is it also improves the rest of the lineup. So here you wait for a second and you're able to trigger this cutscene even though you're not on the actual, like, thing up there. It looks crazy and quite impressive, but only saves like 2, 3, 4 seconds, I guess. But the advantage of it is it's fairly consistent if you're good at it, and the lineup here usually works out way better, because Celosia doesn't have the time to reorient in weird ways. Sometimes it still happens, but I felt like it makes the thing more consistent and allows me to get consistent 26 second times pretty much, sometimes even faster if the lineup works out a bit better with the jump stabs here. And yeah, that's a 26 Celosia. Quite crucial. I mean, you know, Colossus can go quite wrong, and if I didn't go for it, maybe it could have been like a 30, 32, and then it already ruins the run in a way. Every second counts, but you know that if I didn't do any mistakes from here on out, the run would have been better, as I already mentioned, and Pelagia is the reason. So, my hands were shaking quite a bit. It gets worse later, but right now it's quite shaky. And the problem with Pelagia is it requires picture-perfect precision. And I get a bit unlucky. But here is the big reason why this run could have been a lot faster. So, on the first attempt to get Pelagia to lean down, one of the arrows gets eaten, which is a bit of RNG, but costs time because it doesn't do the dip that is necessary to get the jump up. Got me nervous. You know, I'm just human, and very, very nervous kind of human, actually. And here, on the second try, it does the dip, but I jumped too early. Also, nerves. But then again, so the important thing about Udavara's run here is that he lost quite a bit of time on Avion, and he didn't get the phalanx IL. So I knew, even if I get this third try, I should still be able to record if the rest goes perfectly well. So I kept going and maybe used this a bit to calm my nerves. I get the lineup very well here, and the rest usually goes well. It requires quite a bit of precision to get through one cycle, but if you're used to it, you know, it really doesn't go wrong as often. As long as you get the initial lineup, which is quite important to manipulate the AI so it doesn't meme on you and avoid the jump up and the lineup and all of that. But this is a safe one cycle from here on out, pretty much, if you're used to it. It can go wrong here and there, but usually it doesn't. And now the time loss on the RTA will look quite bad, because obviously it's 2 resets. But one thing about this category to keep in mind, which is quite important in many ways, is we use IGT. Meaning that those 2 time resets only lost the time I actually spent in the game. Like, the first one was like 6 seconds and the next one was 9 seconds. So 15 seconds. But I knew I had like 15 seconds of leeway if I did the rest perfectly, so you can just about guess what the rest of the run will look like. But, you know, due to the new strats and going for all of them, it actually gave me quite a bit of a cushion to have this one mistake, pretty much. And even though the RTA will look abysmal, it's good to use IGT, because otherwise loading time are very, very, very weird. Like, you can have the same kind of PS4 and it will vary wildly sometimes. And with SSDs and PS Pros, PS5s, PS4, different kind of PlayStations, there's no consistency whatsoever, which can make minutes of difference. And thank God we use the IGT, because this is the most objective way of doing it. Coming up to it, Phalanx, and this was important. So with Phalanx there's this IL strat, and it can only work if a 50-50 goes right. For Davara the 50-50 went wrong. For me, this one time finally it went correctly during an important run. And this gave me the confidence to keep pushing, because this is pretty much nullifying the time loss I had on Pelagia. Because Udavara lost 15 seconds due to the RNG, I lost them because I'm bad. You could argue it's unfair, but that's how the game works, and getting this IL was very important, because, you know, if Phalanx turns left, you can jump directly onto Phalanx if the arrows go right. But at the same time, imagine, I'm still quite stressed, quite worried, and getting those arrows in clutch like that, I would have failed it 9 times out of 10 before I got better at the game. And this is another thing that helped me get to this point. It is getting a lot more consistent with the strats, so even when I'm stressed, when I'm nervous, muscle memory saves the day. Like, it's pretty much like an easy calculation, you know. If you're 50% consistent on the Colossus, you can say, oh, 50% I get it half the time, so that's pretty good, right? But if you do all 16 of them in a row and you're only 50% consistent on each of them, to just give a dumb number, that will make you fail quite a lot, and the chance of a successful perfect run will go down quite a bit. And as you see, even this run wasn't quite as perfect. With the last Colossus, one of the resets was also pure RNG of the arrow getting eaten. But yeah, the final 3. My heart is racing, I know I can still get the world record, barely. And these 3 are very painful when you're on stress. For Zenobia, it's important to be on point, because the strat we do here is we skip right to the last pillar and do a glitchy jump, a so-called super jump, where we just spam the jump button quite a bit. And the consistency of that one is improved by quite a lot if you get into the right kind of positioning. A lot of people say, oh, it's RNG, it's bad. No, like, to some extent it sometimes is, or feels like it. But here, I don't get it immediately, but since the positioning was quite great, and since I spammed quite quickly, it allowed me to get the super jump fairly well. It's not perfect, but it gets the job done. And for Zenobia, as long as you don't fail miserably, which can very easily happen, this is good. The second part is doing a blind jump, and here I opted to go for a safety, because I didn't feel the angle was quite correct. Usually you would jump from this plateau directly to the last plateau during the cutscene, but here I waited a little bit just so I have this one in a safe manner. And, you know, this is still... could have been, like, faster by... well, theoretically 15 seconds, but in an actual run, realistically, 5 seconds faster. And the delay was pretty much the delayed wacky jump for safety, as well as if I hit the initial super jump perfectly on the first try, it would have been also a bit faster. But here, I do this jump still blindly. People get freaked out, but usually it works. And I didn't go for a jump stab here. You can do a jump stab directly onto the sigil, but I've had bad experiences with that one. If it doesn't hit, you usually fall down. And even if it hits, sometimes you just shake and miss out on the plant. So I went for a more safe manner here. A 117 is decent. It's not perfect, and like I said, could have been like 5 seconds faster, but at this point it's about survival. I'm going into this mode where my heart is racing, my hands and head barely work anymore. I'm just falling back on muscle memory and try to keep it together. But because this next one, it requires an IL strategy. If I don't do the IL, I'm pretty much out of contention for world record. And here again, big thanks to Jaikhay, who showed me and helped me a lot until I managed to pull off the IL a lot more consistently. Here I'm just switching back to the 60 FPS and modern remapped. 30 FPS is required for Zenobia. But basically getting the IL strategy will save 10 seconds, and I need those 10 seconds. I need to be clutch. I have to do this first try. Everyone who tried to run this game will know how bad Argus can get. And now imagine you're nervous and on world record pace of your life, pretty much. So we jump into the hand directly, and this positioning is perfect, so I just went for it. Jump, and I got here. Can re-grab and do the launch, and it went perfectly. So, just to give you an idea how I felt at this point. You know my history of Malus and how often I fail it on good runs. Do you all know the feeling when you fall asleep on your hand and when you wake up it's all numb and, you know, kind of like feels like TV static in a way? This is what my hands started doing. Full force, without me doing anything. My heart rate was probably at its worst, my blood pressure was probably going through the roof. This was not healthy, but keep in mind, 46 seconds ahead, but I had 2 resets. So this is pretty much bang on world record pace, if I don't mess up on Malus. And no joke, I was trying to keep myself together because I knew if I don't, this will still fail very, very easily on the last one. I felt my hands vibrate. It's so bad. Like, I would have gotten this record ages ago if I could control my emotions. But boy, oh boy, I wouldn't have usually done this double roll, for example. That was pure nervousness. It doesn't hurt, but it doesn't help either. And I remember Jaikhay saying, why don't you run around in another kind of angle, it helps. So I just decided to do that for safety. Usually I take a much sharper turn there. It usually doesn't matter, but here, you know, I can't do anything stressful. Here I also don't do the optimal strategy of going pitless and go through a pit because it only loses 2 seconds, and I know I should be bang on world record pace as long as I don't fail miserably. Just for context, a perfect run of this with the usual strats you can go for would be like 44, maybe a 43 or 42 if you push it very, very hard. The usual will be like a 45 or 46 if you go for a bit of a safer strats, that I will do later. But you will still need to go for an early arrow, which I will go for here, because if you don't, you lose like another 10 seconds. And with early arrow strategy here, after going pitless like that and, you know, already being nervous as hell, is you have to hit this arrow from below. I can't believe I did this first try with my hands shaking. In my last world record, I missed arrows left and right, and this is what made Sean overtake me so easily, which cost me very first sub 16. But I did this extra stab here, to stabilize and have an easier way of getting up the hand, and this was crucial. Because now I'm just one plant away from world record, and I take this very, very safely. I usually have to wait out a little bit here so you don't shake out of the plant, and I did all the weights even though it cost a bit of time here and there. But I know a 150 should be enough instead of the usual 145, 146. And this was good enough. I finish off Malus. And I still didn't know if this was world record, but I had a good feeling because 45 seconds ahead I needed like 50 plus 2 resets. The math checks out and it worked out. I can't believe this happened. So yeah, thank you every much. Bah, I'm sorry about that. Thank you very much everyone for watching. Thank you very much for everyone who supported me, and yeah, this was me, Tic Tac, who now has all freaking main category full game records. I could go for all main category records in general, but that would involve a 100% run, so I'm not sure if I feel like it. But we'll see what I can do in the future. Maybe I'll take a little bit of time off unless Sodevar takes this the next day. But I'm very, very happy I managed to do this, and I wouldn't have believed I would have gotten it, but I guess this is a bit of a testament on how much of like achievement is really just mental, and finding the right mental approach to this made me be able to get this, and I'm very, very excited to share this with all of you. And I guess I will post a video in just a bit. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching.